Hey there, I'm Kate, and today I'm going to teach you how to play First Ascent, a rock climbing themed strategic board game for 2 to 5 players. In this game, all players are rock climbers, competing to establish the best route up the mountain and become the most skilled climber. This will be measured by how many points each player gets throughout the game, and whoever has the most points wins. Points are gained in 4 ways: climbing pitches, matching technique symbols, reaching a summit, and completing objectives. Each player has 8 ropes and a climber, and the game ends when someone has used all of their ropes and climbed their 8th pitch. Let's start with setup. First, pick which game board to use. We're playing a 3-player game, so we'll use the desert side. Use the forest side if you're playing with 4 or 5 players. Place each pitch on the board in a location with the corresponding number. Place all pitches below the ledge face up, and all the pitches above the ledge face down. Since there is more than one pitch of each value, the mountain changes every time you play. And if you're playing with the desert side, you'll have 1 extra pitch. Just put it back in the box. Set the Portaledge next to the board and separate 7 slab skills, crack skills, face skills, and gear cards from the asset card deck. Place the stack of each card type face down on the Portaledge. Shuffle the rest of the asset cards and place them on the board, then lay the top 4 cards out on the spread. Shuffle the climbing card deck and summit beta tokens and place them face down on the board. Next, randomly select 3 circular objective tiles and place them at the top of the board. Then place the additional tokens and risk die nearby off the board. Each player then selects a character to play. There are 12 asymmetrical characters to choose from, each with unique abilities. Once you've selected a character, grab the corresponding asset board. Take the corresponding climber and 8 ropes. Place the water and psych cubes at the starting level indicated by the white numbers on the character mat. Each player also draws 2 personal objective cards. Next, determine who will go first. This is whoever has recreated outside most recently. Give them the first player token. Starting with the first player and rotating in clockwise order, each player draws a number of asset cards based on their starting position. You may draw your starting hand from the spread, the deck, or a combination of both. After each player draws their cards, refill any empty spaces on the spread. Once everyone has their cards, each player should introduce their character and their special ability. And that's the setup. Let's take a moment now to explain how the board works. Each hex tile is a pitch, and when you climb a pitch, you earn the number of points listed at the top of the tile. Each pitch requires specific assets that need to be played in order to climb it. There are 6 types of assets: gear, slab climbing skills, crack climbing skills, face climbing skills, water, and psych. As we saw in setup, the skills and gear are cards in the asset deck. Water and psych are tracked on the character mat. First Ascent is played in rounds comprised of 3 phases: the climb phase, follow phase, and Rerack phase, outlined on the player reference cards. We'll walk through an example round to demonstrate how to play. In the climbing phase, you have 2 choices. You can either climb or rest. As the first player, I'll show that I'm climbing by moving my climber and rope onto a pitch in the first row. I'll choose the black snake pitch. We can see that this pitch requires 2 gear cards, a face skill, a slab skill, and a water. After moving my climber, I'll lay down 2 gear cards onto my asset board in the gear column, and 1 of each of the required skill cards in their designated columns. Now I'll move my water marker down 1. After climbing a pitch, draw a climbing card. I drew Party on the Ledge, which asks if I want to share the bolted anchor and lose a psych but gain a gear card, or do I build an anchor around the corner and add a gear card from my hand to my asset board? I'll choose the second option and place this gear card from my hand onto my asset board in the gear column. Once you've resolved the climbing card, discard it and say, "Off belay!" to let the next player know it's their turn. Play continues in a clockwise manner until each player has completed 1 turn in the climb phase. Next, move into the follow phase. These actions are performed simultaneously by all players, and it can be a helpful reminder to announce the 3 actions in this phase. First, gain points for matching techniques. Some asset cards have one or multiple technique symbols in the bottom left corner: precision, balance, power, and pain tolerance. When you match 3 face-up cards on your asset board with the same technique symbol, you earn 2 points. Next, check to see if you have earned any permanent assets. Your asset board represents your progression as a climber, and if you've accumulated 4 cards of the same skill type or gear on your asset board, you earn that asset permanently. Discard the 4 cards from your asset board and add the corresponding skill or gear token. Permanent assets are used in subsequent climbing phases and can be used instead of an asset card to fulfill the requirements of a pitch. Lastly, end the follow phase by flipping over the cards on your asset board. Next, move into the Rerack phase. Starting with the first player, select 3 cards from the spread, deck, or a combination of both. After the first player selects their cards, they refill the spread and subsequent players each draw 3 cards in clockwise turn order. To end the Rerack phase, pass the first player token to the right. Remember, play will always go in a clockwise manner, but the first player token rotates in the opposite direction. Now that we've gone through a round, let's go over some movement rules. You can move your climber from your current pitch onto any pitch touching it. However, you may not climb a pitch you've already climbed or a pitch with another player's climber currently on it. When you advance onto a new pitch, move your climber and add a new rope to it. You may climb a pitch after another player as long as they've moved on to a new pitch. If you're not the first to climb a pitch, it requires 1 less asset and earns you 1 less point for each previous climber. So, if I wanted to climb the leap year flake after the yellow player, I would choose to not use a gear, face skill, any skill, or water. I would receive 1 less point, so it would be worth 0 points, but I might still want to climb it because it works towards an objective, which we'll talk about later. When you move off that pitch, make sure your rope is on top of the previous climber's rope so you can keep track of the order in which a pitch was climbed. Eventually, someone will reach the 3rd row, just below the ledge. When the climbing phase ends with 1 or more players in the 3rd row, flip over all the tiles on the head wall before starting the follow phase. The ledge gives players some additional mobility around the mountain. It connects all pitches in the 3rd and 4th row. So if you are on a pitch in the 3rd or 4th row, you can climb any pitch in the 3rd or 4th row on your next turn, and you may cross the ledge multiple times. Eventually, you might climb all the way to the summit, which will earn you a bonus point at the end of the game. The summits are the only pitches that may be shared by more than 1 climber. You may climb down from a summit, but remember, you can't reclimb a pitch you've already climbed. We've discussed how to gain points from climbing pitches, matching technique symbols, and reaching a summit. The last way to gain points is by completing objectives. There are shared objectives, which any player can try to get, and personal objectives, which are unique to each player. Some objectives relate to the path of a route, such as traversing or climbing the north or south ridges. Some objectives require you to climb 3 pitches of the same feature type. The type of each feature is listed on the top of the tile and indicated by distinct colors for each. The 6 types of features are corners, cracks, roofs, arêtes, slabs, and flakes. Personal objectives are kept secret and are based on climbing sets of pitches with shared themes. Every personal objective card has a symbol, and each pitch that counts towards that objective is marked with the same symbol. The number of points earned for completing the objective is in the bottom right corner. We've discussed how to gain points and move on the board. Now let's talk about what to do when you don't have all the assets you need to climb. One option is to trade in 3 cards of 1 asset type in exchange for 1 card from the Portaledge. Another option is to risk it. If you're missing just 1 asset, you can choose to roll the die in place of the asset you're missing. The risk die has 3 possible outcomes. If you roll a check mark, there's no consequence. Just move on and draw a climbing card. If you roll the -2 card symbol, give 2 cards from your hand to another player. If you don't have enough cards in your hand, give another player 2 cards from your asset board. If you roll a minus a card and minus a psych symbol, you must give 1 card to another player and decrease your psych while they increase their psych 1. No matter what you roll, as long as you can pay what is shown on the die, you've successfully climbed the pitch and move on to drawing a climbing card. But if you cannot fulfill what is shown on the risk die, you must retreat from the pitch and forfeit your turn. Your last option for when you don't have all the assets you need is to rest. To rest, announce you are resting on your turn in the climb phase and lay your climber down. You will take no action until the Rerack phase, where you gain your choice of 5 assets: water, psych, or cards from the Portaledge. You may choose any combination of the assets. For example, you can gain 2 water, 1 psych, and 2 cards, or just draw 5 asset cards from the Portaledge. And that's how to play First Ascent. You'll keep climbing up the mountain until someone has used all of their rope and climbed their 8th pitch. Finish out the climb phase and the follow phase, then tally up the score, and whoever has the most points wins. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, leave a comment below. Good luck on your climb.